Okay, so forget everything you've probably heard about PE ratios and long-term value. Today, we're going to dig into a pretty radical idea that the most honest thing a company can tell you isn't in its annual report, but in its price chart. Welcome to the world of technical trading.
So where does a quote like this even come from? Well, you have to picture a time of just massive upheaval, right? Think of when corporate scandals like Enron were all over the news. Investors woke up one day and suddenly realized that the glossy reports from companies and even the recommendations from Wall Street analysts couldn't always be trusted.
And that's the fundamental dilemma, isn't it? If the whole story a company is telling you might be built on a lie, what are you supposed to base your decisions on? It's a huge question, and it's what led a lot of people to look for a totally different kind of answer, one that didn't rely on trust at all. To really get the appeal of technical trading, first, we've got to talk about the potential traps of the traditional approach, what people usually call value or fundamental investing. Yeah, the Enron scandal is just the perfect, if not terrifying, case study. On paper, this company was an absolute powerhouse. It was hailed as this innovative business model for the future, a key part of the S&P 500. But the reality, well, as we all found out, it was something else entirely.
So how do they keep the illusion going for so long? Enron used all these super sophisticated accounting tricks to hide just mountains of debt. They created fake trades to make it look like business was absolutely booming. The source material calls the whole thing a performance done with mirrors. And the analysts who were supposed to be the watchdogs, well, they were often hopelessly conflicted.
And this gets right to the core of the problem. You know, when you invest based on a company's story, you're really just betting on the honesty of that information. And as Enron proved to the whole world, that can be a total house of cards. So if we can't trust the story, what's left? This brings us to a radically different philosophy, one that trusts nothing but the raw, unfiltered data of the market itself. Think of it like this. Fundamental analysis is kind of like being a detective. You're sifting through clues, earnings reports, debt levels, trying to figure out a company's true worth. Technical trading, on the other hand, is more like being a physicist. You're just observing the forces of the market itself. It doesn't ask why the price is moving, it just focuses on the fact that it is moving and tries to act on that. So the crucial point is this. It's all about creating objective rules based only on things you can see and measure right on a chart, price and volume. No stories, no trying to interpret what a CEO said in an interview. Just the raw data of supply and demand. Okay, now we get to the absolute heart of the technical approach. This is the single most important concept that pretty much every strategy is built on. You've probably heard this phrase before, right? It's the central mantra of technical trading. And the idea is actually pretty simple. Your job is to identify the direction the market is moving and just ride that wave for as long as it lasts. Don't try to fight the current. Now, of course, these trends don't just appear out of thin air. They're driven by real-world forces, things like a government changing interest rates or the seasonal demand for something like heating oil. But here's the key. A technical trader isn't focused on the cause. They're focused on identifying the effect as it shows up on the price chart. And this is the whole secret, if you can even call it that. It's not about having a crystal ball. It's simply about accepting one powerful statistical reality. Markets do not move randomly.
Okay, this is where a concept called fat tails comes in. It sounds kind of technical, but think of it this way. If markets were totally random, like flipping a coin, long winning streaks or long losing streaks would be super rare, but they're not. In the real market, momentum builds. Winning streaks tend to get longer, and losing streaks tend to get deeper than pure chance would ever allow. Those streaks, those are the trends. And a technical trader's entire job is to catch one and ride it.
So, if technical trading isn't about predicting the future, what is its biggest advantage? Well, most people who use it would say it all comes down to one word: discipline. Let's really think about that for a second. If a system can't tell you what's definitely going to happen tomorrow, what good is it? Well, the answer has everything to do with controlling your own worst enemy, your emotions. A rules-based system forces you to be disciplined. It takes your gut feelings, your fear, and your greed completely out of the equation. It gives you a clear plan for when to get in, and maybe even more importantly, when to get out. You define all the rules before the game even starts, and then you just follow them. No second guessing allowed. You know, anyone can feel like a genius in a bull market when everything's just going up. You buy something, it rises, and you think, wow, I'm a brilliant investor. But what's your plan for when the market inevitably turns? A system provides that plan and helps you figure out the difference between a real strategy and just being lucky.
And that brings us to our final and maybe the most important point about what this whole approach truly represents.
So let's be perfectly clear about this. This is not a magic wand. It is not a treasure map or some kind of get-rich-quick scheme. It is simply a framework for making disciplined decisions in an uncertain environment. And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. Like any other valuable skill, whether it's playing the piano or learning a new language, it takes study, it takes practice, and it takes discipline. It's all about applying sensible methods consistently over time. So, we'll leave you with this final question. When it comes to your money, are you watching the news or are you watching the chart? Because your answer really defines everything.